We got Miami Heat breaking news. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. Pat Riley and the Heat have traded Thomas Bryant. The Thomas Bryant era in Miami is finally over. He is going to the Indiana Pacers, and the original report came from ESPN Shams Charania, and it is also being reported that it is a future swap of second-round picks. So a very minute trade from the Miami Heat. It's not like they're getting any assets out of it. They're just swapping second-round picks in the future. But I think this is a really good move, and I know a lot of people are going to come in and be like, how is this a good move? Or maybe they're just excited that Thomas Bryant is gone. I am as well, but we'll talk about what the Heat will do roster-wise and why this was a good decision by Pat Riley. But first, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because I'm Nic Rohloff. We put out daily Heat content. We're live for almost every Heat game, and we'll break down any piece of Miami Heat news. I know a lot of people might have been concerned when they saw Shams Charania say the Miami Heat have traded with all of the buzz around Jimmy Butler lately, but it is just Thomas Bryant going to Indiana. Thomas Bryant should have never been signed in the offseason. When they signed him to a one-year deal in free agency, I absolutely clowned the move because he was terrible last year. You were given a lifeline by him opting out of his player option for this season. I could not fathom that the Miami Heat actually brought him back, especially after drafting Kel'el Ware with the 15th overall pick. And you saw Bryant play early in the year. Clearly does not hold an NBA center role, and he cannot play in the NBA, and I'm surprised the Pacers even wanted him, but they are dealing with a lot of center injuries themselves, Wiseman and others, so they needed to get center depth, and they trade a future second-round pick swap with the Miami Heat for Thomas Bryant. But why was this a good move? It's not actually because Thomas Bryant and the picks that Miami got. It's because the Heat needed a roster spot to be opened, and on December 15th, 2 days away, on Sunday, is the time that you can trade players that you signed in NBA free agency. So this trade will not be completed until Sunday when the Heat finally are able to move his contract, but it actually got agreed to today, obviously. And the reason why it's important is because Drew Smith, I know it's crazy to say this, but Drew Smith has been absolutely phenomenal for the Heat, and he looks like an NBA caliber guard. And over the past 2 games for the Heat, he has been the sixth man. He has been the first man off the bench for Erik Spoelstra, and it's been well-deserved. He had double-digit points this past week. He has been an elite point of attack defender, and he's also been hitting his three-point shots. Like, Drew Smith deserves to get a lot of playing time for the Miami Heat. The issue for Drew Smith is that he is on a 2-way contract, which means he is unable to play more than 42 games this season. And if the Heat wanted to continue to have him elevate in his role on this roster, you were going to need to sign him to an active deal. Well, in the move of trading Thomas Bryant, you now have a full roster spot available, and because you are not taking any contracts back in this move, you are able to sign Drew Smith to an active contract without crossing the second apron, because the Heat could not make any move or sign any player to the roster without crossing the second apron unless they traded away a contract, which they did here in Thomas Bryant and did not take anything back in return. So what this move is actually doing is essentially trading Thomas Bryant for your own player in terms of Drew Smith to have the guard on your team for the rest of this season as an active full-time member. This will also likely clear up a 2-way contract spot, where I would expect Miami to give that spot to Isaiah Stevens, the talented guard who has been balling out for the Heat in the G League system. So it's a lot of moving parts for the Miami Heat in their organization, but it feels pretty clear that this trade was made to get rid of Thomas Bryant's contract, free up a full-time active roster spot to be able to give it to Drew Smith. Give me your one-word reaction to the trade. Let me know what your one-word reaction to the Thomas Bryant trade was down in the comments section. When I got that Twitter notification, I looked at it and I was just like, finally, we don't have to watch Thomas Bryant. Not that we really saw Thomas Bryant much anyway. It's been interesting because when you think about the Heat's front court depth, you were anticipating Kevin Love to be the backup, Kel'el Ware to be in the mix early on, and then hopefully take that role full time by the time the halfway point of the season arrived. Well, Ware has not really got any playing time. He's just got back from a 2-game stint in the G League, and the Heat's depth at the front court spot is iffy. Like, behind Bam, right now, it's just love and wear, but we also haven't seen Nikola Jovic often until last night. If you watched our watch party or watched the game, Nikola Jovic got his number called off the bench for the first time in about 2 weeks, and he balled out. He had 15-plus points. He did not miss a shot. Nikola Jovic stayed ready, so he didn't have to get ready. The old mantra for Heat and any role player out there in the NBA. He got his number called. He came in. He balled out. And salute to Jovic, who's in his 3rd season. I was excited to watch him play once again. I was excited to see him go out and perform to the best of his ability to try to earn more playing time, and maybe that factored into it. Maybe Pat Riley saw that and was like, you know what, maybe we should give Jovic more opportunities, clear up that front court room, because now it only consists of Kevin Love, Bam, Nikola Jovic, and Kel'el Ware. So I would expect Ware to be on the bench for the rest of the season and not go towards the G League anymore, because one injury happens in the middle of a game, and Ware is going to be absolutely needed in this Miami Heat front court. But either way, the trade in terms of what the Miami Heat are getting, it's not really anything, and it's more about Drew Smith. And I think we should wrap up the show talking more about Drew Smith, because Drew Smith has been absolutely terrific for the Heat, and he's been giving the Heat something that they've absolutely needed off the bench in terms of defense, in terms of offense as well. Like, as crazy as it sounds, Drew Smith in back-to-back games has scored 11 points. He scored 11 last Sunday against the Cavs, scored 11 yesterday against the Toronto Raptors. He also gets his hands on in the passing lanes. He had a steal. He, over his last 5 games, 1 steal, 0 steals, 2 steals, 1 steal, 2 steals. And if you take it back the other game before that, against the Sixers on November 18th, he had 3 steals against the 76ers. Like, Drew Smith has legitimately been a very good asset for the Miami Heat. And in that time, he's been shooting pretty well from 3 as well. Shot 1 of 3 yesterday, 3 of 6 against the Cavs, 1 of 3 against the Suns, 1 of 1 against the Lakers, 2 of 2 against the Celtics, 2 of 4 against the Sixers. So he's shooting about 40% plus from beyond the arc over his last 6 games. And I'm not going to act like he's some crazy important player. Like, he's become an important rotation piece for Miami. But in this season, Drew Smith has played in 3, 5, 10 games. The Heat have a 7-3 record this season when Drew Smith appears in a regular season game. Is he the key to winning? No. Just trolling here. But it is worth noting that Drew Smith has gotten an uptick in minutes over the last 4 games. 12 against the Lakers, 29 against the Suns, 26 against the Cavs, 34 against the Raptors. And the Heat are 4-1 in those 5 games. Like, Drew Smith is getting a lot of playing time off the bench. He's the top guard off the bench. He is getting more playing time than Terry Rozier over the last week, which has been deserved, by the way. That's how bad Terry Rozier has been. And I think him getting signed to the active roster is an inevitability. And I'm excited to see Drew Smith continue to grow on this Heat roster. A player that I once called for getting cut. I called for not deserving the 2-way spot because I wanted to give it to Colorado State UDFA Isaiah Stevens, and I'm glad to be wrong. And I'm glad that Drew Smith is here, because without him over the last week or so, who knows if the Heat would be riding a 4-game win streak. In all seriousness, like, I got to be honest. Without Drew Smith, I don't know if they're riding a 4-game win streak. So I'm excited that Drew Smith is going to get a full-time roster spot as that 14th guy. The Heat can keep 13 guys on their active roster for 2 weeks, so they don't have to elevate Drew Smith to the active roster or give him a standard contract until his next 2 weeks are up, when it's mandated that you get back to 14 players. We'll see if Miami makes that Drew Smith active contracts official sooner rather than later, but I would assume it's coming inside the next 2 weeks. Maybe we will talk about and have a video on other free agents on the vet min that are out there that the Heat can sign, but I am going to be willing to bet a significant chunk of change. It is just going to be Drew Smith signed to a standard contract off of a 2-way deal, and then they'll move Isaiah Stevens, who has been balling out in the G League, averaging nearly 10 assists a game, to a 2-way contract to join Josh Christopher and Kashad Johnson as the Miami Heat 2-way players. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. This is why you subscribe, because we are going to break down all Heat news, all Heat rumors. If more Jimmy Butler stuff comes out, we'll talk about that. We'll be live on Monday for Heat Pistons, next game for Miami, trying to get their 5th straight win. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Heat video. Go Heat.